Every morning you still drink juice and eat yogurt because you think it's healthy, right? But did you know those two seemingly harmless foods can actually cause blockages in your brain's blood vessels? According to a study in the US, over 20% of strokes in older adults happen within just 2 hours after breakfast. You might think 20% is low, but don't underestimate it. Because just one misplaced stone can block the flow, and sometimes we're the ones unknowingly placing that stone. I'm a neurologist with over 20 years of experience, and I'm always here to walk alongside you on the journey to living healthier and more peacefully every day. I once saw a female patient in her 60s living in San Jose, California. She was very careful about her diet. Every morning she'd eat a salad with raw vegetables, drink carrot juice, and have fruit yogurt. She didn't smoke, didn't drink alcohol, had no underlying conditions, and still walked every morning. Yet after a breakfast exactly like any other day, she suddenly lost the ability to speak and lost sensation on one side of her body. When I looked at her brain scan, I was silent for a few seconds. Not because I'd never seen a stroke before, but because I didn't expect the cause to come from those seemingly harmless foods. I know you're hearing this with a bit of surprise, maybe even some worry. But there's no need to be afraid. At the end of this video, I'll break down exactly which foods are risky, easy substitutions you can make, and a simple trick I often recommend to my patients to help stabilize blood vessels every morning. But first, I want you to stay with me through this story, because what you're about to learn could change how you start every single day. Her name is Linda. She lives with her husband in a quiet little house on the outskirts of San Jose. I remember her first visit was after a mild dizziness episode while she was preparing breakfast. She said she just felt a bit dizzy when she bent down to pick up a towel that had fallen on the floor. She thought maybe she had slept less than usual that day, so I wasn't too worried at the time. But just a few days later, she came back again, this time complaining of a headache and some neck and shoulder pain after breakfast. That's when I started feeling something was off, even though her blood pressure and blood sugar levels were still within normal limits. She kept eating the same way every morning: carrot juice, fruit yogurt, and a raw vegetable salad. And she still believed she was doing the right thing, taking good care of herself. Until the third time she returned, she told me that while pouring tea, her hand shook slightly and she couldn't hold the cup steadily. She tried to hide it and told me it was probably just age, nothing serious. But I clearly saw worry in her eyes, more than she let on. Then one Monday morning, her husband called emergency services. She couldn't speak, her mouth was crooked, and her left hand was paralyzed. When she arrived, I immediately ordered an MRI scan, which showed a blockage in a small artery in the language area of her brain. We found no other clear risk factors: no diabetes, no high cholesterol, no high blood pressure, no smoking, no unusual medications. The only remaining factor was her daily breakfast, which seemed harmless. That's when I realized there are things we do every day that quietly become the hidden link pushing our health downhill. In younger people, the body can adjust. But in older adults, every small repeated action can leave a mark. What pains me most is that Linda didn't know any better. She was just trying to live healthily and moderately, like everyone advises. So I decided to understand clearly what's really happening in those seemingly healthy breakfasts. And I want you to know too, because if we're not careful, the most familiar things can be what bring our brains down one day. If you're still here, I'm grateful. We'll continue in the next part to understand why seemingly healthy foods can be harmful, and you'll see it's not that complicated. I began analyzing each item in Linda's breakfast not to assign blame but to truly understand the cause. The first item was store-bought fruit yogurt. It sounds healthy, but actually, it contains a lot of refined sugar. Each cup can have between 12 to 15 grams of sugar. That's nearly 3 teaspoons of white sugar. When this amount of sugar enters the body, it causes the pancreas to release insulin very quickly to process it. This process creates strong hormonal fluctuations and pressure changes in the blood vessels, much like pouring a whole bucket of water into a small, fragile pipe. Next was fresh carrot juice. Carrots naturally contain a lot of sugar, but when juiced, the fiber is left behind and only the sugary water goes straight into the bloodstream. Without fiber to slow down sugar absorption, it's like opening wide a gate for a flood of cars rushing down a narrow, pothole-filled road. Finally, there was the raw vegetable salad mixed with store-bought roasted sesame dressing. Did you know that just 2 tablespoons of that dressing contain almost as much sodium as a pack of instant noodles? Sodium causes blood vessels to constrict, and if eaten in the morning when blood pressure is fluctuating, the body struggles even more to adjust. When these 3 items are eaten together early in the morning just as the blood vessels are still adapting to the new day, it's like 3 strong forces pushing against the walls of fragile brain vessels at once. One causes blood sugar to spike rapidly, another causes vessel constriction, and the last disrupts hormonal regulation. A young body still has enough elasticity to cope, but in older adults with thin and fragile vessel walls, such sudden changes are like hitting a cracked wall. If this repeats every morning for weeks and months, micro-damages gradually form, and eventually even a small fluctuation can cause a blockage in the most vulnerable spots. You see, it's not that we're eating bad foods, but that we're combining them poorly and eating at the wrong times. This doesn't mean you have to give up your favorite foods. I'll share simple, easy changes in the next part. With slight adjustments, you can still enjoy your breakfast without putting pressure on your brain vessels. And I'll tell you what Linda did to return to safer, more comfortable mornings. You'll see everything is truly within your control. After understanding the cause, Mrs. Linda decided to change her breakfast, but not by giving up everything, just adjusting a few small points. Instead of store-bought fruit yogurt, she chose plain yogurt and added a few pieces of fresh blueberries or strawberries every morning. Less sweet fruits like blueberries don't spike blood sugar quickly, and plain yogurt also helps the digestive system work more steadily. For juice, she stopped juicing carrots and instead chose to eat a whole peeled orange or a pear to keep the fiber. Eating whole fruit slows the absorption of sugar into the blood, preventing spikes, and also gives a longer feeling of fullness. She still ate salad, But instead of using bottled dressing, she started making her own with olive oil, a few drops of lemon juice, and some apple cider vinegar. Just that was enough to keep the meal tasty while protecting blood vessels thanks to the good fats in olive oil and the blood pressure regulating effect from apple cider vinegar. Another advice I gave her, and want to share with you, is to let your body have a minute of calm after waking up. Just 1 minute. Don't jump out of bed or eat immediately, but give your cardiovascular system time to stabilize before starting breakfast. It may sound small, but it's very helpful, especially for older adults. Mrs. Linda followed these steps gently and regularly, without forcing or extreme dieting. After only 6 weeks, the dizziness disappeared, hand tremors stopped, headaches went away, and MRI scans showed improved blood circulation. What made me happiest was when she looked at me and said, "I didn't expect that such a small change could help me regain my mornings, my life." You see, change doesn't have to be hard, it just needs to be in the right place and suitable for your body. Next, I will take you back to the moment Mrs. Linda looked back on her journey. You may find some familiar things surprisingly reflected in her experience. I clearly remember her follow-up appointment after 6 weeks. She walked into the room with a gentle smile and much brighter eyes than before. She sat down, looked at me, and said, "My mornings now feel very different. They no longer tire me out, and I no longer feel scared." I asked her where she felt the biggest difference, and she answered it was in her lifestyle itself. Before, I thought breakfast had to be quick and nutritious. I worried a lot about what food was truly healthy. Now, I just eat slowly, choose seasonal foods without forcing myself, and I feel my body appreciates it. I also spend a few minutes every morning sitting quietly, doing nothing but breathing and looking out the window. My husband said I looked like I was meditating. I'm not sure if it's meditation, but I feel my mind is calmer. She started keeping a food diary not to count calories, but to understand herself better. She began to realize that sometimes she ate out of habit or fear of nutrient deficiency rather than truly listening to her body. And she learned to be more confident in her choices, seeing each morning as a new beginning instead of a stressful repetitive routine. Hearing her share this, I felt a strange feeling rising inside, not pride or relief, but gratitude. Grateful that I had the chance to accompany someone in the moment they regained control over their own body. And I realized that true greatness doesn't lie in medicine or expensive equipment, but in how you start your day with what attitude, and how will you listen to yourself. If you are still unsure where to start, you are not alone. And now, if you're ready, I will help you remember the most important things to apply to your very next morning. We've come quite a way together, and I know you might be thinking that change is hard. But try starting with 3 very small things tomorrow morning, and you'll notice a difference. First, reconsider your yogurt choice. If you've been using sweetened yogurt, try switching to plain yogurt and add some fresh, less sweet fruit like blueberries or strawberries. Second, instead of drinking juice, eat whole fruit, especially those with soft skin or high fiber content like oranges, pears, or apples to slow sugar absorption and keep your blood vessels more stable. Third, If you eat salad, make your own dressing with simple ingredients like olive oil, lemon juice, or apple cider vinegar. Limit bottled dressings that often contain hidden salt and sugar. And finally, before starting breakfast, take just 1 minute to sit quietly and let your body stabilize your heart rate, blood pressure, and mind. Just 1 minute, no phone, no rushing, no planning. Simply sit with yourself, take a gentle breath, and look out the window. That alone can make a difference. You don't have to change your whole life, just change a small moment each morning. And if you can do that every day, you won't just protect your blood vessels, you'll keep your voice, your memory, and your steady steps for many years to come. This isn't complicated or costly, and you can start right now. I truly believe sustainable change comes from small actions repeated with understanding and self-love. If you remember what you've heard today, then tomorrow morning you'll start just a little differently, and that's enough. And if you found today's story meaningful, please stay with me a few more seconds, because I have a small message just for you before we close this video. I know you have many ways to start your day, and I truly appreciate that you took the time to listen to this story. You don't have to give up all your favorite foods, and you don't need to live too strictly. You just need to understand your body a little better, listen to it a little more, and care for it a little more gently. A small change in the morning can preserve very big things for you, like your voice to call your loved ones, like your steps to take an afternoon walk, like your memory to share stories of your youth with your grandchildren. If you've ever thought living healthy was something out of reach, I hope today you'll rethink that. Because you absolutely can do it with the smallest things you already have. And if you've ever had a food you thought was good, but later realized it no longer fits your body, please leave a comment below. Who knows, your story might help someone else realize something important. And if you found today's content helpful, please subscribe to this channel so you won't miss new videos every week. Next week, I'll tell you about a food that seems harmless, but when combined the wrong way, can cause abnormal blood clotting, all within just a few minutes. Thank you for listening, for taking the time to better understand yourself, and for choosing health as your priority every day.